You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where the dream is dead. Yes, that's right. England v Pakistan. The first World Cup warm-up was washed out at Headingley, and we have nothing to talk about except the IPL Eliminator. Max, it was Rajasthan Royals v RCB. RCB, they'd won about 900 matches in a row, or six, somewhere between those two numbers. Rajasthan, they hadn't won since Christmas, or about 3 weeks ago. It looked like the boys with momentum, Kohli and the lads, were going to pull off a miracle, but it didn't happen, and the dream is officially over. How are you doing, Max? Did you enjoy the cricket?
Good. Yeah, I did enjoy it. It was a better game than yesterday. Yesterday was a bit of a flop, but today, yeah, a bit closer and a bit more action. So it was good. A good warm up for what's to come.
I actually really liked the game, if that makes sense. Like I missed watching a game of cricket a little bit, or I have missed over the last couple of months watching a game of cricket where it was like 20 off 20, and you thought, hey, there's a chance that the team defending 20 here could win. I mean, like, obviously, as it turned out, there really wasn't. Rajasthan won comfortably, but the way the game is flowing, like my eyes were telling me there's something still in this match, and yeah, you know what, that was good stuff. That was really good stuff. Before we get going, we just want to give a shout out to our title sponsor, Manscaped. You can get yourself 20% off plus free shipping with the code CricketPod. That's written on the screen, and you can go to the show notes if you want to, be lazy and not type that in. The code again is CricketPod, and you get 20% off plus free shipping over at manscaped.com. If you do that, Max, they sell a range of products from the hedger for my face, which is, how I keep myself looking so sharp for this podcast. The PG rated podcast that we do, and then the R rated filming that I do off air, where I get my lawnmower 5.0 out just to get myself ready. What's your favorite tool in the Manscaped toolbox?
Well, actually, I quite like some of the other bits that come along with it, Jack, because there's not only, of course, your hedger and your lawnmower, but alongside it, you've got the deodorant and the moisturizer for your balls, and they're nice.
This is one thing I'll say. Like, I use that deodorant daily, and I really like the deodorant. I like how it smells. I like how it rolls on. And it makes me think, like, if a company that focuses on basically shaving your balls will put that much effort into a deodorant, you know that you can trust them with the testicles themselves. So they get the endorsement from me on that basis. 20% off plus free shipping with the code CricketPod at manscaped.com. Max, can you give us a summary of the cricket?
I can, Jack, because while some of us were standing in the rain trying to fight to be heard over the blaring sounds of Things Can Only Get Better in the background, we'd seen that after 8 games of this IPL, things could only get better for RCB, and they did only get better. They made it to the Eliminator, where they faced Rajasthan Royals, where things could only have got worse after their start to the IPL, and we were set for a humdinger between the two, trending in completely different directions. It was a big toss, I think, to win today, and Rajasthan Royals duly won that and elected to field first, putting RCB in with the hope of immense dew occurring later on. But RCB got off to a pretty decent start, as they tend to. They lost Faf, but Kohli had a good go, and it was they were going along, not particularly fast, but they were going along, and it could all have fallen in a heap. But Rajat Patidar was dropped off a fairly easy chance, and that allowed him to put some runs on the board. And it was sort of a case of people getting starts and then getting out. Glenn Maxwell, big show, little show once again. And to be honest, it was only Lomraw's striking at the end that got RCB to a total that was, well, defend competitive-ish kind of. There was a game. There were some runs that Rajasthan had to chase. 172 for 8. And, slow going for the first couple of overs of Rajasthan, but they broke the shackles. Jaiswal took 16 off a Yash Dayal over, and that sort of got things going for Rajasthan. They looked like they were well on their way. But then they kind of lost their minds. They started playing like a team who hadn't won in the entire month, Jack. Sanju Samson just ran off when Karl Sharma was bowling in the opposite direction of the ball for no discernible reason. Yashasvi Jaiswal had got too hot and basically decided he wanted to be out and flicked Cameron Green behind. And Dhruv Jurel decided that he didn't like running between the wickets, so just decided to run himself out instead. And Rajasthan were every bit looking like they might completely balls up from a position of complete strength. But Robin Powell came in, did the job alongside Hetty, and it was it was comfortable in the end with over to spare, 4-wicket win. But the scorecard says it's comfortable, but like you said, there were nervy moments at the end. People, with the way that things have been for Rajasthan, their famed inability to keep their early good form going, they sensed there was something there. But credit to them for getting the job done.
Yeah, I think my reflection on this. Remember on the last episode we did together. So you were with Dan yesterday, and people should go back and listen to that if they want to know about KKR v Sunrisers Hyderabad. It was a good show. On Sunday, we were talking about the utter jubilation and how it was like a pure sporting moment when RCB overcame CSK and completed the miracle comeback, and they got to the playoffs, and they had hope and all of that. And I think I said something along the lines of that being like pure sport. Well, this is also pure sport. There's two angles to it. Like, we watch it for the joy and the emotion and the thrilling stories and the unscripted madness of people running everywhere because they bowled a dot ball. We also watch it to find out who the best at cricket is, Max. And we found out in this game that Rajasthan, as we suspected and have suspected for a lot of this season, were in fact a little bit better at cricket than Royal Challengers Bengaluru. And I know that that's like sometimes a little bit boring, and I'm sure we'll unpack the various elements of it. But my first takeaway, I think, Max, and I'd be eager to get your thoughts, is that actually we did just see the team that were better at the things that you need to be good at do those things better than the team that are less good at the things you need to be good at.
I think that's probably fair. You never really felt with the score that RCB put up on the board that Rajasthan Royals were going to struggle, and you got that. I think the sense was, even after they lost a couple of wickets, you had players in there that you just backed Rajasthan Royals to get over the line, I think. And with RCB, I don't think you got that same confidence. And it was reasonably close, I suppose, in terms of a contest. But yeah, it's like the comparison between someone like Ravi Ashwin, who came in, took 2 wickets and broke the game open for Rajasthan Royals, and Swapnil Singh or Khan Sharma.
More like Khan Sharma, am I right?
You can see that. Yeah, you can see the difference, and I think a big thing for Rajasthan today was having Hetmeyer back. That's been a loss for them in the last few games, and you can just see that he came out there and there was work to be done still, and he came out there and basically made sure that the game was done. Right, he got it down to 20 off 20 alongside Rian Parag, and pretty dumb shot to get himself out, but he'd won the game by that point realistically, so not too much of a big deal. And I think you just have to say, well played, Rajasthan Royals. Do you think the toss was quite big, though?
I agree with that. I do think it was I think both the games have been really toss influenced, and it was so hot today in Ahmedabad that RCB decided not to do any pre-match practice and stuff like that. And you do think and I know there's reasons why this match is in Ahmedabad. You do think that like maybe common sense could prevail a little bit, and in a country the size of India, you could play the games that
where
are
it's
later
not
in the
45
year.
degrees.
Oh, like I mean, there is the chance that if you play it somewhere else, like it obviously could be hot. Like you don't know that, and you're chancing your arm a little bit. But I'm pretty sure it's always hot about this time in the year in Ahmedabad. Like you wouldn't choose to play in Delhi, for example, at this point in the year. It would be similarly hot. There are other places that are a little bit more coastal or at higher altitude, for example, that you could play these games at, or you could play them obviously slightly earlier in the year, although schedules and that. Max, one of the big things that I think we probably need to discuss is the Rajasthan Royals bowling. Probably the best bowling team in the tournament, I would say, and I know that Jaiswal will take plaudits for a very composed innings, and Rian Parag similarly. Like, how much of the investment over the last 3 seasons did Rian Parag repay just by getting them one round further through the playoffs with his innings today? A fair amount. Like, he actually genuinely did. He added a good percentage to their chance of winning a title just by his innings today. But really, Trent Boult bowling spell that was, I think it was 1 for 6 off 3 overs to really screw up the power play for RCB, and Ashwin as well. I think, as you mentioned, they showed again why having 5 really, really good bowlers is important in T20 cricket.
Absolutely. I mean, you can just see in every other side, isn't there? There's someone that you think we can catch up. Like, I think we spoke about Mumbai, they're the perfect example. Like, you've got Jasprit Bumrah, but you also have 3 people that you can score 12 and over plus off. And there isn't a single player in that Rajasthan side that you would back yourself regularly to do that. I mean, it happens. Absolutely, it happens. Like, it's been a tournament for the batters, and there are runs to be had, but there's extra risk involved trying to score those runs off the whole of the Rajasthan attack. Whereas, you compare them to RCB today, and you look at every single one of them, and you're like, runs everywhere. Like, Cameron Green bowled well today, but he can be leaky. Lockie Ferguson has gone for tremendous number of runs in various games. Like, Hamid Siraj, probably their best bowler, but he can blow hot and cold, and it is a case of being able to restrict the opposition in that way that I don't think... I'm trying to think on the fly if there's another side that have sort of got that level. I think SRH, if they had Hasaranga... Yeah, I mean, I think maybe KKR. I mean, certainly with the spinners, but I'd say,
it's a stretch with the seam bowling. I get that.
Yeah, like Dre Russ, I think you'd probably fancy to get runs off, but he takes wickets. I think SRH, if they had Hasaranga, would be up there in that category. And maybe CSK when all of their bowlers aren't injured.
Yeah, that. But
there's not many teams, and it's a big thing to have in your armory, because it just gives you that extra way of winning that some other teams don't have.
I think that's true. I also think that in a crunch game like this, if you can bowl 20 overs with just 5 bowlers, that is huge. That means you're not really cheating on any of your batting talent. Like, all of their batters, and it's probably fair to level at Rajasthan that they're one of the shallower batting teams, but all of their batters are in that team because they're the best batting option for the role that they play. And they spread the role so well as well. I mean, like, weakest link in the side obviously sticks out is Tom Kohler-Cadmore. Not a bad player, to be honest, and 20 or 15, he's done kind of what they needed from him. He's taken away the immediate threat of a huge collapse by facing 15 balls, and he's got 20 runs, so he didn't hold things up too badly. And he's probably the worst player in their top 6. I mean, like, Rodman Powell coming in down the order, at 7 is really decent, and Ashwin isn't. I mean, he's not a bad 8. But to go back to the bowling, the fact that all of those bowlers can be relied on to bowl their 5 overs, and that you don't have to hedge your bets on like a kind of mediocre bloke who might bowl 2 overs and can shore up your batting at number 7 or number 8. Even in impact sub IPL, has value. So
Yeah.
fair enough,
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, I was
Rajasthan.
going to say the two are linked in the sense that, like, you look at those 5 bowlers for Rajasthan, and none of them really offer you much with the bat apart from Ashwin. You know, he's half decent in T20 cricket. Obviously, he's a very competent batter, but in T20 cricket, he's fine. And then I was going to say that, you know, maybe that's part of the reason that they can get away with using 5 bowlers, because they kind of, you know, it's very much a batters bowlers thing. But then I was looking at RCB and, like, look at their 5 top bowlers, and none of them could bat either. So it's still bollocks.
It's obviously a little bit sad for RCB as well. Kohli, I mean, Kohli's had such a good year, and I think that
he brought
really should
up
be
his
said.
8,000th IPL run today.
He was fantastic this year. I think he also became the second player to ever score 700 runs twice in different IPLs. So him and Chris Gale have done that, which is a great achievement. I thought, Max, it was kind of a bitter irony that he got out slog sweeping, which has been the shot that for me has really transformed him from a guy that you could fairly lambast for slowing down too much against spinners and for, you know, ball eating, to use the phrase that Ross would use, into a guy who doesn't do that anymore and is a threat the whole way through the innings and had a major role in taking his team to the playoffs. I thought it was a really bitter irony that the slog sweep was the shot that he was out to. I don't know if there's anything you want to say about Kohli. I mean, there was that amazing piece of fielding that he did to effect the run out as well. But it is. I think what I'm saying, Max, it feels like properly the end of the cycle for RCB. You know, we might not see Faf du Plessis in the IPL again. Kohli got to the playoff despite against all the odds this year and failed again. Next year they'll have to reload, rebuild a new team. You know, push that Sisyphean rock up the group stage hill to try and get to the playoffs. Probably not succeed because they're a franchise that traditionally make a lot of bad decisions, and there's nothing to suggest that they will move away from that. And you know, maybe it's another one of the few remaining chances for Kohli to lift that trophy. And then slightly further down the list, like, probably fair to say, an aging Glenn Maxwell dropped a crucial catch, got out playing one of the most mystifying shots of all time.
He had an absolute stinker today, didn't he?
Stinker.
Oh my God.
Absolute stinker. Absolute stinker. Siraj is probably the other name on the list. Maybe a little bit more in the tank for him, but I don't know. It really felt like the end of the cycle and kind of sad for a few reasons if you're an RCB fan.
I don't know. I'd say that they feel like to call it a cycle suggests that there's some kind of plan going on and that they've been building towards something. And, you know, the whole, like, splurging a bunch of money on Cameron Green when it wasn't necessarily what they needed kind of thing, getting rid of, you know, it's just, I don't feel like RCB have really been planning towards something successful. So to call it the end of a cycle feels a bit, I don't know, it feels a bit off. I feel like it's actually a really good opportunity for them to reset and build something for the next couple of years. You know, I doubt we'll see Kohli back at the helm, but we could do.
That'd be. I would love that. I'd be all over Kohli, King Kohli return, King Kohli the second.
I think they should. I think it's an opportunity to, you know, like I say, start again, clear a bit out. I mean, like you say, Faf probably not gonna hang around. I can't imagine them hanging on to Glenn Maxwell after the season he's had. DK is off. So, you know, they've got
DK. I forgot DK. Yeah, that's another cycle over.
Yeah, and it's yeah, you know, it's mega auction time, and depending on how many players they let all the franchises hang on to, RCB have got an opportunity to put something together. Especially, you know, they brought in Mo Bobat. I don't know if that's going to give them an opportunity. Is it 6? Is that confirmed now?
Well, nobody knows, but
that's the suspicion.
The word on the street, and I actually live on IPL Street,
right?
Is that 6 is what they're probably going to settle on, and we don't know
6.
whether that'll be right to match or not.
Mhm.
And also, these people do change their minds, so
They
don't tweet at me
do.
when that turns out to be incorrect.
And if anyone's got a prerogative to change their mind, the BCCI have got to be right up there. But yeah, I think they've got an opportunity, and I think I'm really impressed with just the energy that Virat Kohli is still bringing. Like, he's 35 and a half, and like that run out today, the energy gives in the field. Like, sometimes I don't know who's the captain between him and Faf du Plessis, and sometimes he does go up to his fast bowlers and shout in their face when they bowl a bad ball. Probably cut that bit out, but I just still love the intensity that he's got. After all of these years of playing cricket, IPL, India, whatever it is, to still have that intensity, I think is phenomenal. Like,
my respect by now. My respect for Kohli has gone up a substantial amount this year. Like, I think the way he's changed his batting, as you say, 35, and most people are thinking about the beach.
Yeah.
Is great. Like, to add shots to his game, to buck the trend. Like, generally people get worse against spin the older they get. He's getting better against spin. Like, he's established it's a weakness in his game, and he's done something to address that, and he's been really effective. I've got massive respect for that, and even more than my respect for that is his commitment to being an absolutely unreal fielder. It's like 4 runouts this year. Like, it's the run out he affected today. Whatever you want to say about the umpiring, we should mention that just before we wrap up on this game. Whatever you want to say about the umpiring, the fact that he was able to cover like 30 yards, pick the ball up, throw it whilst running basically in the opposite direction
on the wrong side,
nail the throw, one bounce right into the breadbasket for Cameron Green, who then obviously fucks it up. But like, to pull off that throw with all of the rules of physics going against him was amazing. There's probably nobody else in the league that was capable of that level of athleticism. Maybe Faf du Plessis 5 years ago could have done it. Probably not Faf du Plessis now. Probably can't cover the ground. That was amazing. And like, he's setting a level as a guy who really could be thinking about his commentary career, or, in becoming a businessman, or whatever he wants to do afterwards. Like, to be setting that level in sporting terms is incredible. And
IPL coaching gig.
I full on give him the thumbs up when it comes to that. Max, umpiring. I think that's the last thing from this game that we probably need to cover.
Yeah,
it was a bit dubious, wasn't it?
Well, I mean, that's that's putting it mildly, isn't it? I mean, which one do you want to start with? The DK being LBW, or I mean, because that was horrendous. That's absolutely horrendous.
One of the worst third umpire decisions I've seen is what I would say about that. Like, it was so obvious that it didn't hit his bat and that it was bat on pad. It was so painful. Even Michael Vaughan had managed to fire off a tweet before like a minute had passed. That's how bad it was. Even the loosest man alive had managed to recognise that was incorrect. Yeah, that was bad. What did you think about the Cameron Green umpiring decision? Did he have the ball in his hands?
Yeah, that one was. I think that one was a bit trickier, because there were so many angles that had different things. And like, from one angle, it looked like he'd basically thrown the ball on the floor. But I think the angle that shows that is a couple of frames after the bails have come off, and I think he's actually just about like got a bit of the ball between some of his hand and some of his wrist, and like knocks the bail off with his like finger at the time. And I think that was probably okay.
I think so as well.
He was basically, a millisecond away from not being in control of the ball anymore. He was barely in control of the ball, but I think like probably enough of ball on hand while knocking the bails off for it to be okay. But I think it's the kind of run out that deserves to be given, just so that Kohli gets the assist, because it was so good.
It was so good. If Cameron Green had screwed up one, I mean, like, genuinely, that's so hard to do. it's so hard to do that and to throw the ball that far in that amount of time and that accurately. Like that's the sort of thing.
Well, that's part of why Cameron Green nearly messed it up, because he was so not ready for that ball to be coming back.
if Cameron Green had screwed that up, I'd never have forgiven him. Like that, I would genuinely say this, Max. I think that was the best piece of fielding I've ever seen in the IPL. Better than any of those like relay catches, because they practice them. Like being able to pull off that athleticism to throw the ball that hard and to cover that ground and to throw it that accurately, it would get you a gig in a far more difficult sport to field in. Like that's the sort of thing people do in baseball that you don't really see in cricket because it's not a skill you need. But Kohli has it, and that was incredible. Max, I think that's a good way to end part one. Like to kind of give Kohli one last hurrah. Rajasthan obviously going to go on to the next game. We'll take a quick break. We'll talk about that, and then we had a handful of questions in from Twitter. Just wanted to say as well, Prajwal, I think you made a good point that there is a case for specialist third umpires because of a couple of the instances we've seen today, and the fact that we actually see them repeated reasonably regularly.
You only need to take a look at football to see how bad normal referees are.
Well, I mean, like, to be honest, let's be thankful we're not football. Let's be thankful we're not football. We'll be back in a couple of seconds to talk through. It's Qualifier 2, isn't it? That's the name of the game.
Qualifier 2, IPL Sexy Game 2.
Is that what we've been called? I think that's what we called it last year. The Sexy Game 2.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast, where we're going to be doing a quick preview of IPL Sexy Game 2 and looking forward. No, not looking forward, and doing a couple of questions that we got in from Twitter. Thanks very much to anyone who did contact us there. You can find us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or you can head over to Patreon, patreon.com/the Cricket Pod, and support the podcast directly, which gives you access to a Discord channel that we run, as well as numerous other benefits. Oh, and we're also sponsored by Serious Cricket. Head to the show notes, get yourself some cricket gear, especially for those of you living in the UK. Max, I'm back in action after a month off on Saturday. Yeah. It was a glorious beginning to the season. I'll see how the second month goes.
The beginning of the season, the first month being one game.
The first month being one game, second month being one game, and then it does ramp up a little bit. Give me your thoughts. Sunrisers Hyderabad v Rajasthan Royals.
Yeah, this is a tasty one. I can't seem to, in my head, get past the fact that it's at the Chapok, and seeing the way. I mean, Sunrisers, they're all action, getting off to a fast start. Travis Head and Abhishek Sharma going ballistic, and then you look at what Trent Boult did today with his power play bowling, and you just feel that all the tools are there for Rajasthan Royals to cause Sunrisers problems in every department that they excel at. So I'm good. Yeah, I'm going to go Rajasthan. That's where the logic is putting me. You got Ashwin, you got maybe less so Chahal because it's more of a finger spinners game in Chennai. But I think the quality of the spin on show for Rajasthan and the power play bowling probably good enough to see them through, especially with how boom and bust Sunrisers can be. But Heinrich Klaasen, you can't rule them out.
So here, I mean, I've been wondering on this game, and I think it is very close to a 50-50. I'd maybe have a slight inkling, or I personally have a slight inkling that Sunrisers are ahead. And with any T20 cricket match, you're basically talking a margin of 10%, maybe 20%, and I would give SRH a 56-44 at most edge over Rajasthan, and probably more like 53 to 47. Like I think it is obviously really close. My thinking, Max, is that I think that the Sunrisers can win a few more different types of cricket match than the Rajasthan Royals. So I think the Royals, basically with matches where their bowling plays an outsized role in the game. And that happens regularly because their bowling is good, but they're coming up against a team that can really bat. So I think their edge might be slightly diminished. I also think that the Rajasthan Royals are not a team that are going to be able to counterpunch if Sunrisers Hyderabad, say, batted first and got 225 on the board or more. And I'm not saying that will definitely happen. I think your Cheport points are valid, and I think the 225 plus score, we might only be talking about 10% of games here or 5% of games here. It might be an extremely
I think
rare
there probably have
occurrence.
been a few more runs than
That's
normal.
the edge. Yeah, that's the edge I think they have. I think for games where it falls within the par range, I think those games are all 50-50. I think Sunrisers bowling is probably slightly underrated because they had to bowl at some of the, on some absolute highways. There have been some mad scores in Sunrisers games this year, and so I think, you look at some of them and their stats don't look good. But actually, I don't think Bhuvi's bowled that badly this year. I don't think Natarajan has bowled badly this year. I think Cummins has bowled really, really well this year. Fourth and fifth bowlers, definitely Rajasthan have got an edge there, but I think you can pick holes in the Rajasthan Royals bowling lineup when they've had to bowl on flatter surfaces too. Like Chahal has not had a great year, I would say. I would say that Trent Boult's utility after the first 2 overs of the game diminishes quite substantially too. I'm not a big buyer of Avesh Khan. Like I think, as I said in part 1, I think they are a good bowling attack, but are they a good bowling attack against a set Klaasen? Or a set.
No one's a good bowling attack against a set Klaasen, Jack. That's an unfair question.
Or a set Travis Head, and these are eventualities that might play out. Like I think a lot of people do think that Trent Boult against Travis Head, bearing in mind Travis Head, I think has been bowled by 2 left armers who bowl in or outswing to left-handers in his last 2 matches. That's a good matchup, and it probably is. But it's not a guarantee that Travis Head is going to be out, and if he isn't, he becomes a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger problem. Like it's like Narayan on roids in a way, except maybe not this year because Narayan actually, well, he's not on roids as far as we know. But if he was, he would probably be about as good as Narayan, not on roids but playing really well. If that makes sense. So yeah, they're my thoughts. What would you give it on a percentage basis? So I'll say 54-46.
Right, yeah. No, I wouldn't be anything further than 55-45. It's a proper close game, and
as it should be.
I'm looking forward to not being able to watch it because I'm at a wedding, or rather, getting my phone out under the table at the wedding meal and sneakily copping a look at the IPL because it's gonna be a good game.
You absolute chump. I mean, these are the 2 best games, aren't they? I mean, nobody needs a reminder of that. Did you know, Max, the 2 best games of the tournament are the semi-final and the final?
Well, it's not always the case.
But they're the ones that, like, I think a lot could happen, and I'm looking forward to it. We had a few questions through. EVR asked one on the YouTube stream, which was, could you plan a separate video for retentions for each team after the IPL release the rules? Yeah, we will get to that unless the IPL drop it in the middle of the World Cup, which probably will mean that it gets overshadowed by the World Cup. I mean, we've already got a pretty busy schedule over the next month or so, haven't we? With that. On the topic of retention zone, we'll do one here. 2019 Car Bubba says, can we name 2 Indian and 2 foreign retentions for all teams eliminated? So we'll do something like that when we know the rules. But I'll give you that challenge. And I'll just say, can you name 4 retentions for RCB? Because they went out today and they're on they're the topic of the pod. I'll give you number 1 for free as well.
Is it
Virat Kohli. Mate, like,
Yeah.
I don't care. There's two angles, and I'd have been all in on retaining Kohli because Kohli's worth loads of money, and I want to make loads of money if I own a franchise. I'd have been all in on that before today. Well, not before today, before this IPL. But I think Kohli's done quite a lot with the bat this year to suggest that he's actually worth the retention of his own bat. Maybe not at full buck, but he's definitely a retention, and I've got no problems with that. I'd be doing the same thing. So Kohli's number one. Can you get three others?
I'll probably go Kohli, Siraj, Cameron Green, Will Jacks.
Oh, really? You're taking Cameron?
I know he's very expensive, but I think there's upside there more than you got with a lot of. I mean, you're not going to get him back cheaper. I don't think it would be very risky to try that, and I don't.
Do you want him back?
Yeah, well, you could go. Obviously, the other option is obviously Glenn Maxwell, but he was so bad this year. Then again, we know what happens when RCB let players go. End up being pretty good.
Well, yeah. So yeah,
I think probably between Maxi and Cameron Green, but I'm definitely keeping Will Jacks because that's pure upside for 5 years.
I think if you're taking an overseas, if you're doing an overseas retention, then Will Jacks is the obvious one. I think if the IPL change the rules and get rid of the impact sub, then Cameron Green's value goes up a lot, and him and Will Jacks, because Will Jacks could bowl 3 overs and Cameron Green could bowl 1, or the other way round, or one of them could bowl. You know, that's quite a good pairing.
Cameron Green bowled really well today as well.
And they both combat in the top 6, so I think there's a lot of value in that. If there's still an impact sub rule next year, Cameron Green would be the first guy I cut, just from an economics point of view.
Well, I mean the price. Yeah, the price is the issue.
I just don't think he's worth that, and that's not to say he's not a good player. I think he probably is, but I don't think you're getting that much output. From it. So I would say Virat, Siraj. If we're talking just any 4, I'd try and get Patidar on a low deal.
Well, if it's any 4, I'd have said Patidar over Cameron Green. Yeah, but
and then I think Will Jacks is probably the other one. 29 Carbubber also says, should any team buy Maxwell next year? How about this? What would your price for Maxwell be?
I'd go up to 8.
Yeah, I'd go quite big, I think, as well. I mean, like, obviously, there's a while to the auction,
obviously, but yeah,
there's a while to the auction. But Maxwell can do things that basically about 5 other people can do, and he can bowl, and you know, he is a pretty good fielder. And he's not actually that far off breaking his leg. Like, he's probably still. Well, I don't know. He's a year off, isn't he? So maybe he's just old now.
He had the most ridiculous innings in the history of cricket in the World Cup. So
that is true. Prashant says, "Are Rajasthan Royals a boring team?" Don't let Ross hear that. Are they boring? Are Rajasthan Royals boring?
Are they boring? No, they're not boring. They're competent, but they're not boring. They've got people like Hetmeyer. They've got Jaiswal. They did have Butler. Sanju Samson's so good at coming in and hitting this first ball for 6. They've got excitement in the spin. They've got Ashwin. No team with Ashwin is boring. Even if every time they get to talk to him at the halfway stage, you get to hear something new. He was literally laughing about how nicely the dew was coming on at the halfway stage. Quite enjoyed that. Nah, they're not boring. They're just the kind of team that you get a bit annoyed by because they don't do one crazy thing really well. They're just sort of across the board quite good. And I guess there's nothing from that stands out like another side. But they're good. They know what they're doing, and they've got a good kit. Can't complain.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Max, we're up to 40 minutes. That's our time limit for today. Thanks very much for listening and watching. If you want to go back and hear our thoughts on Qualifier 1 between Sunrisers Hyderabad and KKR, you can do that. That's the second listen down. That was Max and Dan Weston on that episode. Otherwise, make sure you click like and subscribe. We've obviously got the last couple of games from the IPL coming up. Then we've got our preview series on the World Cup. We've got a little bit of England v Pakistan. And we have the T20 World Cup itself. So if you're not T20 cricketed out already at this stage, We've got another month of it. Uganda. That's what we're here for. Thanks very much for listening. Goodbye.